I think, our success the past two seasons and, just the people we are. Zach and I, we've played left guard, right guard, I think, since like 2020 now. We've been here. And like I said, it's just, we do the right thing. We play hard for this team. We play hard for everybody. But we'll also be, our teammates' biggest fans at the same time. So.
All right there, Trevor Keegan on having a pair of guards, offensive guards, named as captains at Michigan. How about that? Welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football on this Friday after some dicey weather last night. A little bit surprised that everything is good, up and running. And if you're maybe across the Midwest, heck, got a crazy weather. And then right here in Michigan with a lot of flooding. But as things went the last couple of years, I would have predicted that I would have been in trouble. But I'm not happy to be here and ready to talk some Michigan football with you. Now, I don't know, you say, well, how ready are you for, next Saturday? Everybody's ready. Everybody just cannot be any more ready. Boston at the seams, and if you have some experience to you know how to deal with the week. How a week from today, that football Friday on the eve. I mean, my experience is you just sit at home and wait on it'll drive you crazy. You got to get out, do something. You got to find something to do, or else you just can't. Like waking up at 4 a.m. on the Christmas morning. And that first Saturday, I don't know what it's like for you, but I just recalling back in my days, the opening Saturday of the college football season, I'm up early. And nowadays, I am generally a morning person, but back in the day, I really wasn't a morning person, but I was on the opening day of college football. It was like being 8 years old on Christmas, and here it is, counting down the days and all of it, and it's here. We made it, so congratulations to everyone. Well, today we've got Blake Corum. We'll hear from the Michigan captain, the two-time captain, talking about the recovery, his knee, what he learned while being laid up after that injury in the first half against Illinois last year. The news is out about the first three games and the self-imposed suspension for Jim Harbaugh. And Harbaugh has revealed a four-headed coaching monster. I'll give you my thoughts on that. But we will start out with the big news of Michigan naming not one, not two, but six, a half dozen captains. That's the news. On the offensive side, along with Corum, you do have those two guards in Zach Zinner and Trevor Keegan. And on the defensive side, Agent Zero, Mike Sainristil, who was a captain last year. He's back as a captain again this year. Not a surprise there. Chris Jenkins. You got all three levels covered here. Chris Jenkins on the defensive line. You've got Michael Barrett as a linebacker, and then that front seven. And then on that back end, Mike Sainristil, or as whenever you hear somebody from Michigan talking about Mike Sainristil, we might call him Agent Zero, but everybody else around that football program, you know what they call him? Mikey Sainristil when they're introducing him. And you listen to Mike Sainristil talk for, I don't know, it takes you about, I don't want to say it just takes you 30 seconds. I'll say it takes you maybe 2 or 3 minutes. But you listen to him talk, and not that he doesn't sound like a football player. I mean, he's talking about football. But you listen, you say, this guy really is a excellent orator. He's got a great delivery, and he's really smart. So based on, without even knowing, a lot goes in if you're a captain, the leadership and everything else and what you have to deal with all the players and your teammates and everything else. But Sainristil is one of those guys. It just doesn't take long where, boom, you get why people like him. And it's also one of those things, like I would predict that Mike Sainristil would play professional football. I don't know how long, 3, 5, 10 years, whatever. You can also sometimes just by listening to someone for a couple minutes say, it doesn't really matter what that guy does. That guy is going to be successful just by the way he communicates. And that's, to me, number zero, agent zero, what I saw yesterday being in the presence of the two-time Michigan captain. But the first thing that a lot of people, maybe it was the first thing, so, well, 6 guys, where's JJ? If we would have been sitting here and predicting like, all right, Michigan's going to have a half dozen players named captain, you'd say, okay, well, Corum, Sainristil, McCarthy. And the first thing you're like, whoa, wait a second, where's JJ? Well, Harbaugh indicated that the only players that were eligible to be voted captains were seniors or fifth-year guys, or in this case with Barrett, a sixth-year guy. And you say, there'll be other people. Does that make you happy? Is that the perfect world for you with not having JJ McCarthy being named captain? And if you really are dialed into like the day-to-day like news and arguing and conversation like between Michigan and Michigan State fans. A few years ago, Michigan State had a quarterback named Connor Cook, and Cook wasn't named captain, and it was a big deal. People said, Cook's not really a very good leader. There's no wonder that he wasn't voted captain. That was like some of the talk. And State fans were like, what are you talking about? People would say, he's kind of a jerk. That's what they would say. I don't know if Cook, he ended up after actually winning the Big Ten, and you had the trophy. Archie Griffin, the two-time Heisman Trophy winner, walked up and gave Cook the trophy, and Cook seemed to like treat him like a bellhop, like he kind of patted him on the head, like, get out of the way. And everybody was kind of reaffirmed, like, this Cook guy is a joke. So there'll be a lot of State fans like, oh my God, wait a second, JJ, what's this say? Not a very good leader. And I get that, like from a rival. And even if you're a Michigan fan, you can say, well, I really wanted JJ to be captain. I think the way I look at this is that you need to adjust expectations and you really need to think about what you really do want. Now, if we were just talking last week about captains, I'd say, yeah, I would want JJ McCarthy to be captain. And then you'd say, well, how many captains do you want voted? And myself personally, I'd say, I just want 2 captains. It's kind of like growing up, you'd have a captain on the offensive side. You would have a captain on the defensive side. That's the way I grew up. That's what I knew. And it did seem like this isn't the first time, heck, there's been 7 captains, multiple captains. It seemed like not that it like, wow, he's throwing captaincies out there, like candy. Coaches decided, it was Brady Hoke, like each week we're going to have different. I didn't like that, the different captains, but I think with where we're at with name, image, and likeness, I think this is part of it. You had a number of those guys, Keegan and Zinter especially, and heck, I'll throw Jenkins in there. You could put all of them in there. These guys could have gone pro, and they decided to come back, and certainly Corum. And those that stayed were rewarded financially with name, image, and likeness. And now those that stayed have also been rewarded as captains. This is new. This is Jim Harbaugh looking at the situation and adjusting. And if you're hung up, I don't know, maybe you are. I might be just talking to a State fan or two, or maybe a Michigan fan or two that don't like it. Ask yourself 2 questions. One, if you were JJ McCarthy and the question came to you and he said, hey, JJ, would you forego being eligible for being a captain this year if it meant that Corum, Zinter, Keegan, especially on the offense, would come back, and then Sainristil and Jenkins, and for a 6-year Michael Barrett, would you forego that? I would bet everything that I have that JJ McCarthy would say, I'll do it. And then ask yourself the same question. If you're really like, nah, I really want JJ. Would you want JJ? Or do you want those guys to be rewarded? And a little either or, you can say, I want 7 captains. All right. You could make everybody happy or try to, but just ask yourself that question. Those are the questions that I ask myself. And I look at it and I think this is Jim Harbaugh, who is a traditionalist, I'd say by and large. I mean, if you had to say, he loves the tradition of the game, understands all that, but you also have to adjust things. He can't say, oh, well, 50 and guys that are like over 50 years old, they like just having 2 captains. So let's just have 2 captains because that's the way they used to do things. No, he's decided to have more. And now that they had this special season, it doesn't mean that he has to do this next year. This was a special situation. Maybe he will. Maybe this will be something at Michigan while Harbaugh is head coach, that it's just seniors that'll be voted for. And I could see that. Is that some kind of carrot for players in addition to maybe some nil money that they could get, that they could say, hey, I could stay around and I could be captain? Possibly, that could be something. They all say it's the greatest individual honor that you can have at Michigan. So, that's the way I look at it. And then I don't know if you were able to listen to or see all of the captains talk. I was there yesterday, and I saw all 6 of these guys walk up to the podium and talk about being captains at Michigan. And these guys are a special group. I know, I don't know. I don't think you're getting tired of it. You tune in to listen to Michigan football talk. These guys, this team is special. These captains are special. Zach Zinter, you listen to that guy talk for a few minutes and you say, I'd follow that guy anywhere. Blake Corum, we're going to hear from Blake Corum coming up in a minute. Listening to Blake Corum last year, his love of Michigan. There's a lot of names that you could put next to if we opened up a dictionary and it said Michigan man. There's a lot of pictures, but Corum's would be right there as a Michigan man. The epitome of a Michigan man, Blake Corum. You just heard from Trevor Keegan. Never late to a meeting, never missed a lift, all for one. He's as a team guy as you could possibly get. And what Michigan has done the last 2 years, running the ball, and it's been the difference of physicality up front. That's not lost on me, having 2 guards being named as captains. You think at Ohio State specifically that you would have captains on the offensive line? No way. No way. It would be, a pair of wide receivers. So, this is Michigan. I know I would like to see them open it up a little bit, have a little bit more of a dangerous passing attack. We're all thinking that that's part of it. But the blocks, the cornerstones right now, if there's such a thing over the last 2 years, of Michigan being back, the resurgence, it's about a tough physical line. And 3 of these guys, and we'll go to Jenkins on the other side, are captains. And Chris Jenkins, he's someone that you sit around and say, I want to be friends with Chris Jenkins. Friends with him for sure, because he's a football player and he's really good at it and everything else. But he's got a great personality. You could see, if you went out with Chris Jenkins and you were just sitting there, you would never have to say anything. Once in a while, you might say something like, hey, Chris, tell us another one. He's funny, affable, and he connects with you. Now, he also, and this is a trait that you notice from football players, not all of them are able to do this, but apparently Jenkins, he's got a little Jekyll and Hyde to him. When the lights go on and he's out on the field, he's a completely different person. He goes from laughing and joking to being mean. And, that's good when you're a football player. So you like that. And then Michael Barrett, a couple of years ago, if you'd have asked Michigan football fans, they wouldn't have talked about Michael Barrett. They'd have said, why do we need Michael Barrett? I think about the pandemic season, the game against Minnesota. Michael Barrett made a few plays on special teams, but then there was, where was Barrett in 21? Like he was a little bit banged up and he kind of got lost. I'd say lost in the shuffle a little bit. I love stories. I like all of the stories, but Barrett's about somebody who comes in and then, really doesn't take off, has to work to climb the two deep and then gets there and then, is climbs to like the top of being a captain. I love stories like that. And, that's Michael Barrett right now. And, there he is. And, he made it a point, he said, look, it's great to be captain. And he rolled out those who stay. And for him, that's what it is. Those who stay. And for Barrett, it worked out that way. And I've already talked about Sainristil. Sainristil, I don't want to say he would be a politician because he's such a smooth, silky talker, because I want to put that on anyone. And I also don't want to put on saying, Sainristil could be a broadcaster after he's done. Look, there's a lot of players that go on and have a lot of success and give a lot of insight as a broadcaster. And since I'm one, I hear him and I said, boy, and he could really be one. I don't know if he wants to be a broadcaster. He could be coach, broadcaster, politician, teacher, whatever, professor, agent, whatever it is. I will predict that Mike Sainristil, after however long he plays in the NFL, will be a big time success in whatever he does. Just on being able to listen to him talk for a couple minutes. That's the kind of guy he is. All right, now, so that's what I think about the captains at Michigan. Before we hear from Blake Corum for a minute or two, let's see what the people have to say. This is a show where we invite the people in. We're a week and a day away from Michigan football opening the season. We got games tomorrow. Everybody's fired up. Let's see where the people are at with the captains. Richard, you must be a senior to be a captain at Michigan. He just laying down the facts. Just like 22. It's not 22 days, as 22 points out. It is 8 days. Ooh. And this is something that I think we are all going to, at some point, be thinking about. Peacock. Getting Peacock. I've seen different people say, well, you can get the 7-day trial, and so then you can cancel it. And I get, working the system, working it. But I also noticed that the Michigan State and Washington is when Michigan's playing the night game. So that's in their third game. Michigan State plays Washington. It's like 4:30 or 5:30. It's a nice little warm up. And I like those odd, you get the 12 o'clock window, you get the 3:30 window, and then you get some odd 4:30, 5:30 game before you get a night game. And State figures in there. So I figure I'm not going to game the system. And I don't even know, they offer it. So once in a while, if they offer it, if that's something you want to do it. I mean, it's legal. It's not like it's illegal to do. But I think I'm having, get to the point. I'm going to go with Peacock for September 22, talking about Harbaugh a little bit. We'll get to the coaching lineup coming up. So we'll see if we agree with that. Number one on Facebook is GP. He's in the house. JP to JP likes the returning men. Mikey likes everything. That's a nod to life. Took me a second. Back in the day, there was a very popular commercial. They poured the Life cereal in the bowl, and a kid named Mikey, who apparently didn't like any other cereals, he would try the Life, and people claimed after, he was scarfing it down, Mikey likes it. I like it by Richard. Couple more. Jason is okay with It's All About Those Who Stay. If you want that title, if it's on your list to accomplish, you stay. JJ and Donald will get their chance for sure. Just have to wait one more year. Yeah, like it's there for you. Maybe they should have had this rule all along, Richard says being a captain appears to help your draft status in the NFL, not so much at quarterback. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it helps your draft status. I do know that whenever a pro team, when they're talking about their draft class, if a guy has been captain, it's noted. He was a captain. Michigan, on some of the transfers that they brought in, captain. It was a big deal to Jim Harbaugh, who was a captain, by the way. But, being a captain is, it speaks for yourself. But, talent, there's all kinds of situations where you might not be named captain. And I told people at the time, I didn't know Connor Cook, going back to the Michigan State situation. So I didn't know if he was a DB or not, even though they would be like, oh, yeah, he certainly is. Okay. But I told state people, look, Michigan, when they won in 97, their captain were an offensive tackle in John Jansen, and then Zeus was Eric Mays was the captain on the defensive side, a linebacker who ended up getting hurt, I think, in the Indiana game, and then pretty much, it was out for the year after that. So 2 captains, and it was not their quarterback. A quarterback who went on and had a fine NFL career in Brian Griese. Of course, Griese, threw the chair through the so there maybe it was some of that, and Griese wasn't like you were heading into 97 thinking, oh, Griese, boy, this guy, he is, he's going to light it up. But the difference here is that there was no chance that JJ was going to get voted in. So, because you just had to be a senior. Go through a few more here. Coming up, we're going to hear from one of those captains, and then we'll talk about the coaching lineup. Of course, anything else that's on your mind, Michigan-wise, or anything else. I don't know. I'm all Michigan right now. I like other things. I went to the dentist today, and afterwards, got coffee from this place that I really like. And so, it's not all Michigan all the time, but it's mostly Michigan all the time. So, whatever you want, wherever you're at. Let's see what OT says. He likes JJ not being named captain. If he was, the privilege of being captain, go out and earn it next year. Yeah, look, I've always been and now you start talking about this, you feel like I'm going to start talking about politics and, voting integrity. I've always wondered, with the coaches, because they say, this is the players. And so they go out there, and the players, this is a players only vote. That's why, it's such a high honor. Your peers are the ones that are voting you. But then I'm always suspicious, because like I said, growing up, there's always 2 guys. But then all of a sudden it'd be like, we got 4 captains. Is there really a tie? Now we got 6 captains. And who's counting the votes? I mean, is it just Harbaugh? So am I calling into question the integrity of the vote? Maybe. I'm calling in you do what's best. Look, we're not voting. We're voting for a captain, which is a great honor. But, and Harbaugh adjusting with this, there was a point to, yeah, sure, the seniors, but there was also a point to, no, JJ wasn't eligible. Because if he was eligible, everybody would have had to deal with it. How did he take it? What do you think about your quarterback, your returning quarterback, not being named the starter? Can he still be? I mean, all of those things. This nips it in the bud a little bit, and, it's an adjustment, and it works well. But I see what you're saying, OT. Gretzky never took the C in L.A. Mark, I know, Mark, you and I disagree with, it was about Jack Nicklaus. I talked about hitting a 3-wood on 18, I think, something like that. And you said, Jack Nicklaus never did anything like that. Or you came right back at me. And I tried to look it up online, but, over the years, talking with a number of people, Michigan people, about that was just something that I'd heard. I didn't know if that was an urban legend or not, but I always thought that why would a Michigan person make up that Nicholas, had fired on the Michigan golf course, drove the green and carried the water. I think it's 18. It's right there you're walking out back of the clubhouse over to the right. I'm not sure if that's 18. It might be 10 or something. I don't know, 9 maybe or something. So you went against me. I still haven't been able to get clarity on that. Here is another one. I am going to have to say that Wayne Gretzky did wear the C in LA. And I'm going to have to now. So this is 2 times that I'm going against you. This one I will be able to check in on. I'm not calling you out. I'm just disagreeing with you. I like when you say, no, I like when, if I say something that's wrong, I like people to point out, like, no, you said this, and it's actually this, and this is what's being reported. I like the correct information being out there. So, like, when you went against me with Nicholas, fine. I was going to find out. I haven't. It's been months, so I should have been able to find out, that information. But I will be able to find this one out. Old Gretzky. I'm just thinking, like, I'm just going to have to go against it. We're just going to have to look on that one. I like it because it's, off the beat path a little bit, talking about Wayne Gretzky. Wolverine fan too likes the choices. In fact, he calls them excellent choices. Laron has no problem with how, who, or how many captains are chosen. What I don't like is 2 coaches calling a game. What say you? Okay, we will get to that coming up about the coaches. All right, and we'll revisit that particular query. Let's hear from Blake Corum for a minute or two. Corum was asked about what he's learned about himself since that season-ending knee injury against Illinois. And here's what he had to say.
Adversity, the grit that it took to, have a great year that I had, but, be okay with it. It took me a while to realize, that it's something small, man. This is just something small, there's a lot of people out there doing way worse than I was. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people are quick to, you know, get down, when something small happens, when there's people out there, man, really struggling. You know what I'm saying? And this is something I could come back from. I got to repair it. You know what I'm saying? Some people can't repair a lot of things. Some people aren't blessed enough to, be able to play sports. You know what I'm saying? Born with disabilities and stuff, man. All I had was a meniscus tear, some minor, man. So just my output on life, the way I attack each and every day, really just taking everything in. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's easy to get too ahead of yourself, man. From time to time, maybe I did last year. But I told the guys this, like, just being where your feet are, man. Really taking it in because time flies, and I'm really just taking everything in this year, man. I'm excited to be back. I'm glad I came back. It's going to be a great year.
You said that there hadn't been much hitting with you out there. Is there going to be against ECU, like where you throw a jump cut to know that you're 100% back? I mean, have you thought about that? Have you done some jump cuts in practice? Like,
just because I haven't been hitting much don't mean I haven't been cutting. I've been cutting. My cutting ability looking real sharp. Right where it should be. And I know, the objective is not to get hit. So hopefully we can carry that in the ECU. Maybe I won't get hit next Saturday. Maybe I can make a miss or something. But nah, I hit a little bit. But like I said, I'm back. I'm back. I've been cutting. I can plant. And I don't even think about it. Someone asked me, "Hey, how's your bad knee?" It's not a bad knee. This thing's good. This is a good knee. But I'm good, man.
All right, last two for Blake. We'll go.
All right, there he is, Blake Corum, and I've said it more than once, and so now it will be like the fifth or sixth time. The most important thing to me, or the thing that I'm looking forward to the most, and I really look forward to everything. I look forward to sitting down, turning on the TV, having it fired up, and watching the guys touch everything. The first play, first catch, first touch. I like it all. But the thing that I am looking forward to the most about seeing on Saturday, a week from tomorrow, is Blake Corum look like the Blake Corum from last year. So that's where I am at with that. So now we get to the two questions. We answered this one about why is everybody in an uproar. People are not in an uproar. Roderick, go back to the beginning of the show. I mentioned OSU, and there was a lot of hubbubaloo, or whatever you want to call it, about Connor Cook and Michigan fans and Spartan fans going back and forth. So now the shoe's on the other foot, and Michigan's like, no, we're good with not having. And all Spartan fans are like, wait a second, So it's a rivalry thing, but LeBron doesn't mind the captains, but he does not like two coaches calling a game. So let's address that. First, I want to tell everyone out there that they should be joining up the Maize and Blue Review right now. You want to know about practice, recruiting, the transfer portal, the best Michigan talk posting board that's all there. It's at the Maize and Blue Review. Go to michigan.rivals.com. And what I can tell you right now is that, boom, an annual subscription sale going off right now, 60% off the annual subscription price. Use the promo code Kickoff 2023. How about that? Kickoff 2023. Go to michigan.rivals.com and get it done. All right. Harbaugh names 4 head coaches for the 3 non-conference games that he's going to be suspended by choice. And so the question is, what I don't like is 2 coaches calling a game. What say you? Now, look, this might sound like an easy way out. If Michigan loses one of these games, it's going to be a big deal. But I don't think Michigan is going to lose any of these games. Michigan has one of the easiest non-conference schedules in the entire country. ECU is going to be real tough. Michigan is going to smash these 3. These 4 coaches, one could be Wolverine fan 2 coaching the first game. Mark could be coaching the second game against Bowling Green, and then 22 could take the first half against UNLV, and then OT could take the second half against UNLV. Honestly, that could happen. It's not going to be that big of a deal. I know there's a lot of moving parts and different things that you have to do, but these are walkthroughs. And I've been there. I've seen it. We all have seen it happen. We all remember and all that. These are easy games. That's why I'm glad Michigan's doing it and getting it over with, and Harbaugh treating it like he is. He's making the best situation that he can here. I like that he's doling out the responsibilities. Do I think that there's going to be any issues with it? I don't. I think these guys, it's going to be a great responsibility to be able to actually be up there. And I think after the game, you'll have Minter addressing the media, like as the head coach, and same with Sharon Moore. I don't know if both Harbaugh and Jay Harbaugh and Hart will be up there after the game against UNLV. Maybe Hart will just say, go ahead, Jay. I don't know. Maybe they'll both be up there. But, it's just some of those little details. I don't expect it to affect the games whatsoever. So whether you think it's an easy way out or whatever, I don't know, but that's it. That's what I think about it. Now, account 22, let's get a couple more. Kenneth says, wasn't Cade a captain last year? Yeah, Cade and also Eric All, two guys that, two of the captains transferred last year. So look, yeah, when you get back to captains, like I said, I really, I'm old school in some ways. I like just two captains. I didn't like, even though I understood and I probably would have recommended that he do it, I didn't like, Devin Bush. And who was it? Higdon. Those guys were captains and they didn't play in the bowl game. I didn't really like that, but they did it and I understood, but I didn't like it. And I don't necessarily like having multiple captains, but you do have to adjust and, look back to last year, like those guys were captains and they bolted, so yeah, you're all for the team and everything else, except when you don't feel like, the team's behind you and then you can bolt. So yeah, but that really didn't affect the season at all. Having those two guys, both of them ended up getting hurt. However, ended up working out. And there was some stuff that each one of those guys said that, they burned their bridges in some ways. I wish them both success. I hope Michigan plays Iowa in the Big Ten championship game, but those guys burned their bridges by running their mouth like they did. If they would have been taking advice from me, even if they felt like that, like, with their knee or their back and the doctors, I'd have said, let's just, let's zip that up. Instead, they ran their mouths a little bit and neither of them really, Cade was like, it was one of those things when you're out there and getting interviews like, oh, I could tell you a million things. And then he's like, but I didn't really like this about my knee. Well, where's the million things? Tell it. Bad job by who was ever interviewing Cade McNamara last year. And then, with All, he's like, well, the doctors didn't want me to play. And then I don't really understand why he got upset. Should they have just let him out there with a bad back? And then, he had ended up getting hurt. Then he'd have been upset. I don't know. I don't really get that. He didn't clarify it anymore. It was another one of these things like, well, I got a lot to say and I didn't like the doctors, but I'm not really getting into it. Well, you just did get into it. But that was an argument for a different time. So there we are. Let's see. Am I getting back? Jason, on a side note, says he likes the glasses, very sophisticated, and the beard is lined up. He's getting my coat. I get an honorary captain this week. To be honest, I have about 10 pairs of reading glasses. And, some, these are my mother-in-law's. They're more high powered for reading. I like it. I do like these myself. You can't really see, there's, I think if I got a permanent pair, this would be the style that I went with. The only problem with these, they're a little flimsy. No, but thanks for the thoughts on the glasses. Account 22 said that he thought Harbaugh was trolling the NCAA by naming a bunch of different coaches. I don't really understand the line of thinking there. If he would have just named Sharon Moore for the 3 games, would that not have been trolling the NCAA that he's using, giving his a number of different coaches an opportunity just because how it played out? That's how I see it. I don't see any trolling from the NCAA. If Harbaugh, sticks something out on his front lawn, I don't know what he would put out there. The hell with the NCAA. That would be trolling the NCAA. I think this has nothing to do with, the NCAA. This has everything to do with rewarding your staff and your coaches. That's what it has to do with. So I don't really get the part, but hey, if you think it's trolling the NCAA, I've said it a million times. Like at this point, if you're Michigan and this is the NCAA, everybody's looking at the NCAA and they hate them. There's no reason to be like, well, let's try to work through this now. NCAA bad, Harbaugh good. We'll just keep it like that. There's no reason. That's not an argument that I want to really get into. And in fact, I don't see it really any redeeming qualities in the NCAA. So why did I get into it? Well, good. I'm glad that you asked this. He said he didn't hear Corum very well, volume too low, maybe. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I just had my cell phone as I was recording that audio yesterday and listening back to it. It is low, but I cranked it up on the board and I could hear it really well. So I thought that was coming over. I don't want to say loud and clear, but loud enough. But you saying that, Wolverine fan, makes me feel like I need to get a wireless mic if I was to continue going down to those news conferences and put it up there on the podium so that you could get crystal clear or clearer, better sounding audio. Thank you for that. Yeah, anything that you see on this and then you're like, well, yeah, I don't really like that part. I like to hear it to see what's going down when it comes down to it. Now, it looks like we got some Jack Nicklaus thought. Account 22 is talking about a myth. No way he carried the water on 18 at the blue course. I didn't know there was a blue course. I thought there was a Michigan golf course. So I don't know what blue course. I mean, are there more than 18 holes? Michigan golf course is called the blue course. Okay. Let's see. Mark, 9 when he played. Story I heard was he hit it in the water. Still made birdie twice. Driver than 3 wood. It's a 400-yard carry. Impossible. Okay. Let's see. What's going? JP, what about a 5 days a week? I'm looking into that still. I think possibly it could happen. Let's see that. Richard was saying that he heard the same thing about driving the number 9 or 18 or whatever else carrying the water. So Mark is saying OSU YouTubers made a huge issue over JJ not being a captain, living rent free. Well, this is, there's some things that in rivalries and, smack talking back and forth, sometimes, people have a point. I think with this one, there's not really a point. You get it. If it was a Michigan State and it was something like that, as Michigan fans, you might be like, oh, that's Sparty or that's, and you do the same thing and you do sometimes with OSU, just out of hand, criticize something. It's not a surprise. And so it's not a surprise. If I was running if I was an MSU YouTuber, I'd be like, oh yeah, Harbaugh moving the goalposts on the coaches. I would have made a big deal about that. If I was an OSU fan and you guys have 2 quarterbacks, which means you don't have one, and Michigan's quarterback who just beat you like a rented drum in front of your hometown fans last year, I would also be making a big deal about that. But, okay, big deal. Let's see. Big Buckeye Garrison. Uh-oh. Speaking of OSU, Dennis could coach those games using a Madden playbook and not wear a headset like Hoke. They will be fine. Yeah, I agree with you. That's right. Mark's like, what's up with the 2 extra coaches? Are they for Moore and Newsom? Jack and the strength coach, Ben Herbert, were in there. And I think that's it. There hasn't been an announcement that, because originally Newsom, the tight end coach, Grant Newsom, and then Sharon Moore were going to be dinged by the NCAA. And Michigan has not made an announcement about would they hold those guys out to try to pacify. That's what they're trying to do and minimize any sanctions with the NCAA. Maybe. And so this is, when you see this this could be the possibility of why these guys were being added. Now, the game day duties, Jack, for one game, and it also isn't a sure thing. But I could understand how somebody could say, "Oh," and they could. Newsome could be suspended, and then the same thing with Moore. They haven't said that, but that doesn't mean that it's not happening. So, and when you do see that, it does maybe they're, who knows about that. I'll check with Josh Henschke, who I think would be up to speed on that, knowing what's going on there. I agree with Trevor. If Michigan loses any of these 3 games without the head coach, then we don't deserve to win the Natty. Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's more about Jack Nicklaus. Mark says, my job 1 is 11 on the field every play. Okay. Let JJ call the plays and bear it on D. I'm not really sure about that. Here's a little golf GOAT talk. Do you consider Jack Nicklaus as the GOAT? Yes, Jack Nicklaus is the GOAT. Here's how it works in golf. You look at the list of majors won, and that's how you determine who is the best golfer of all time. Jack Nicklaus is number 1. There's no argument there. Number 2 is Tiger Woods. Now, there's a lot of people that don't remember 1986 and the Golden Bear, winning the Masters at, 46 years old or however old he was. And so they say, yeah, well, that was like Wilt Chamberlain. And for like Michael Jordan's considered, the GOAT in basketball. But when I was growing up, Michael Jordan was playing, before he even went to North Carolina, everybody said, well, Chamberlain's the greatest basketball player. People said, well, Russell had all those championship rings, and people it was almost unanimous. They would, there'd be Celtic fans that talk about Russell, and he was great and everything, but everybody kind of agreed it was Wilt Chamberlain. So there might be a little Tiger Woods, like, I never saw Jack Nicklaus. Fair enough if you want to do that and you want to say Tiger Woods, but it's Jack Nicklaus. And you know how like you can say whatever you want in your own mind because you might love Tiger Woods or whatever else. But you know how you really, you know what you do? You ask Tiger Woods. And Tiger Woods has been asked 1,000,000 times. And you know what Tiger Woods says? It's Jack. Jack is the greatest golfer of all time. Tiger Woods knew what the mission was. He knew the assignment. His assignment was to win more majors than Jack Nicklaus, and he would be crowned the king of all golf, the greatest of all time. And as we sit here right now, as great as that championship was at the Masters, where he came out of nowhere, where I didn't think he was going to win anymore, but nobody thought he was going to win anymore. Maybe a few of you. And one of the great Masters of all time, one of the great sporting events of all time was Tiger winning that last one. But, he's going to be number 2. Now, what if he ties? If he somehow, won and pulled even with Jack, well, now we're going to be able to have a conversation, especially if he does it now at the age and how banged up and everything that he is. That's where we're at. OT never remembers it being just 2 captains. When I was in high school, forever ago, it was 4 captains. Yeah, well, OT, you're just not that old. Yeah, here at 22, I'm going to give you a bit of advice when it comes down to sports, and this is it. No ties. They got rid of it in football for the better. They got rid of it in hockey. You know why? People don't like ties. Ties are fine. Ties are nice. Ties are like, I don't have a sister. It would be like kissing her. You don't have ties. Ties suck. So you got to break the tie and you got to pick one of them. That's all. Nothing against you, but no ties. Richard says, looking like the walking is working. The walking, Richard, I've got an update on the walking. It was going so fabulous. In May, I was just getting out there. And then June, I was walking a fast 3. And then it got to August, I took the turn and I started going 4. And then last Thursday, week from yesterday, my left calf started feeling a little bit. And the next day I went out there and about 3/4 of a mile in, I said, wait a second, I better turn around. Strained calf on the injured list. And, here I sit. And I think it's going to affect. I was going to go to the Dexter football game tonight. They're playing my high school, Livonia Franklin, right here in the village of Dexter, and I've had to say I'm out because of my calf. So now I'm just sitting back. Strained calf, you're going and going, and now I just have to sit here. I'm hoping by Monday that I'll be able to get back there. There it is. Mark, talking captaincy. LaRon wants me to show me our Fred Sanford drawer. Now, I don't know if this is going back to the radio days. It could be. And I've told the story before, but I'm going to tell it quickly. Look, there's somebody that says, your podcast is way too long. Just make it 15 minutes. That's fine. I would tell, if I could have, I appreciated that review for the person. He said, well, you go on. And I felt, I'm guilty of that. And then I always thought, why don't you just listen to the first 15 minutes and, that's it. And the first couple of years that I was working in Detroit radio, I didn't have a desk. There was a community desk, but there was a big drawer. Big enough where you can almost, if I curled up, even at my size here, I could have gotten into it. That was my desk. So I had this big drawer. Well, I went across the street. There was this rib place called, the Boneyard out there it's still there. I don't know if it's a chain everywhere, but there's 4 or 5 of them around Southeast Michigan. But I got a box of the Boneyard and I put it in my drawer. And I don't know where I went, but I was gone for a little while and they kind of had a meeting in there. And somebody was like, wow, things smell really good in here. And they opened up, what's in that drawer? And they opened it up and there were ribs in the drawer. And since that day, they were always like, what's in the drawer? And so they would go in there and look, I would go out, you pack your bag for the gym or whatever else. So you'd have all kinds of things going on in the drawer. And you come across a lot of, I like memorabilia and all kinds of different things. So I wouldn't actually purposely like throw baseballs, but I always had a basketball and I always had a football and usually a glove with a ball and I don't know about a bat. So I had a bunch of things, but it was a bit. In radio, they would say, what's in my drawer? Let's see what's in the drawer. Let's see. I've got a drawer here. This is for my cats. Let's see if I have anything good. You never want this one. The bad news book. What was the bad news? I don't remember what the bad news was, but here's the book for it. Oh, here it is. The rest of it. The bad news is that Antonio Reeves was returning to Kentucky. That ended up being, okay, here's a little knick-knack for you. This was from 1997, and it remains to this day as being my favorite game that I have ever gone to. And so, you have your favorite game. Why would you ever get rid of? You get a lot of junk. This is 26 years old, right? Why would you ever get rid of it? It's still there. So it's in the drawer. Okay. We still have time for a few more. That's one thing about podcasts. We got time for everything. OT. He doesn't understand why Cade and all get so much flack for being captains that transfer, but we hype up the captains that transfer to Michigan. Well, I think that's a fine point. It's one I haven't considered. It's because here's how things work when you're a fan. everything that's positive with your team is good. And anything negative with other team, is laughed at. Anything bad that happens with your team, you know, there's not a lot of nuance when it comes to sports fans, OT. Like, look, Kate McNamara should get credit in 21. I always thought, I try to reverse my not course, but reverse and just go back in time and think about after the pandemic season. My thoughts about Harbaugh wasn't really high on him. Also, I thought that if somebody asked me, and people did ask me a number of times, what's going on with Michigan? Why can't they beat Ohio State? I'd say, well, the number one reason is the quarterback play. They get outplayed at that position every single year. And it doesn't matter who Ohio State puts in there, they play better. From Troy Smith to JT Barrett. And then if JT Barrett comes in, Haskins plays better. And then if Haskins gets hurt, they put that other dude who didn't play school, 12 gauge, and they get beat by their third string quarterback. And I said, if Michigan is ever going to beat Ohio State, they got to beat him at the quarterback position. I was wrong. CJ Stroud, even though he complained about the weather and everything in 21, actually didn't play all that bad. And, I would put the reason as defensively last year, Ohio State, I don't know if toughness is an easy way to say that they just weren't tough enough against Michigan, or Michigan was tougher because they just haven't seen that, even though they should have, because that's why they got beat in 21 on both sides of the line, defensive line, offensive line. That's been the reason that Michigan has been able to turn this rivalry around. Now they've got a quarterback. Now they've got everything, going on against Ohio State. And so what's my point? Oh, Kate McNamara. Yeah, what you wanted is Kate McNamara. He was on the sideline for the majority of the games, but as a captain, and at some point he decided, hey, he said Harbaugh wanted him to stay in there and play on one leg or whatever he said. Maybe he could have, as a captain, he could have done that, but he also wanted to get an evaluation on his knee. And when he went out there, they were like, you should be, they're telling you, you get a doctor. They wanted him to go under the knife. And so he was out after that. That turned some people. It's hard to leave anyways with good standing like that. So, but then he, the couple of the things he said, he could have been more gracious upon leaving. Yes, he could have. And that was the same thing with all. I still don't understand. I know people like to say, like, I completely understand. He made something up about, I don't know. When it gets to a medical situation, Michigan can't talk about it. And then sometimes when you hear from the Michigan camp, talk about inside sources or whatever else, they're saying things. Are they giving you the real honest assessment? And then it came down to all was banged up and he didn't like what the doctors were saying. And so he took off. But then, he had some things to say too. So I don't know, when they have those 10, 25-year reunions, Big Ten champion, the guys come back. I don't think those guys are coming back. And if they could have just zipped it up, maybe they could have. And, people would have been, is that a big thing? I don't know. That's the way I look at it. It's because they weren't completely, captains. You want Michigan men as captains, and those guys at the end, I don't, it's not like I'm going to be railing against them or anything else or, ruining it. But, they, even though they were captains, I think those guys kind of had to turn in their Michigan cards at the end, and they could have kept them really easily. They could have kept them. Now, I like people giving an honest, but neither of those guys, as I pointed out, they said a little bit, but they didn't say a lot, or they didn't say enough, I should say. And the little bit that they said, it basically was this. Oh, I could tell you a lot of things, but what I am going to tell you, I really didn't. Okay. All right. That's it. Clean breaks are tough. Go through those relationships. We're still going to be friends, or I wish her the best. And okay, you might, but do you really? You wish your old girlfriend all the best? Yeah. Your ex-wife, she's the mother of my cat. just lay your phone on the podium. Well, that's fine if I'm there as a reporter and I just need to read the comments or get the audio, but I'm using my phone, Richard, for the video and the audio. You know, they're only $10. I saw a wireless mic. And so I wanted to test it out. I've just been going for the last 2 weeks. I've just gone to like 4 or 5 press conferences. So I don't know, but I am an audio guy. So I do like to have, and I don't think any of our rivals are actually using. I see some of the boom mics and things like that, but I haven't seen any wireless mics on the podium. I'm going to make the adjustment. It's going to happen. It will. Mark, and this is it. One time you say one, maybe that person wasn't like, but two, doesn't like the sound. You have to amp up. The feed was terrible. Yeah, I amped it up, but it's good. It was good feedback. Thanks. I'm clear on that. I'll make the adjustment on that. Hey, Blake, let's see.
Yeah, man, just perseverance. Adversity.
You really can't hear that?
That it took to, have a great year that I had, but
my levels were pretty good on that. I was going to say the levels looked pretty good.
This is just something small.
With Blake, keep Blake off to the side.
A lot of people out there
And talking.
I was.
We'll take a couple more questions.
Get down.
The blue course.
There's people out there, man, really struggling.
Well, it's a good nickname for Account 22, and you know what? You could name it the maize course, the blue course. I think about, just because you said that, I thought maybe there was another course that I wasn't aware of that they would use maybe as their, a practice course or something like that. Like, and maybe it was just me thinking of some of the places where they played the majors, like in Oakland Hills. Is it they got the black course, I think, or Beth Page, it's like, these different courses. So I didn't know you get the blue course, and I was thinking maybe there was a maize course, but no, just the nickname. I'm not going to subject you to my blue course memory.
There hasn't been much hitting.
But I could tell you one time I was
throw a jump cut,
hit a great shot, and I don't hit many.
You thought about that? Have you done a little
10 feet from the hole? I don't remember, 10 feet from the hole on the blue course, and I'm like, oh yeah. And I 6-putted this thing, it's like putting on the speedway over at Michigan Speedway. Woo! Thing ran right by. It was a disaster.
Maybe I won't get hit.
But it was a great approach.
Maybe I can make him miss or something. But nah,
Am I going over 30 passing touchdowns for JJ?
I don't even think
I would put the number lower than that.
It's a bad knee. It's not a bad knee. This thing's good.
Mark talking like he knows exactly how this went down. Nicholas made the birdie twice from the water and drops with a penalty. Okay. I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one, Trevor. But it's okay. Trevor came for the football talk and it morphed into, golf talk. Didn't like that. All right. That's going to do it for today's show. We'll talk with you on Monday. Everybody have a great weekend.